Good morning, students.
Good morning.
What we're going to do today is a little bit of an enrichment over what we did yesterday. Remember yesterday we looked at our books and we read The Carousel of Dreams, and we took the facts and opinions from that story and we completed our graphic organizer, which you guys have in front of you. You should have worked with your table mates and you came up with 5 facts and 5 opinions from the story, and you guys all did a wonderful job. So that's why we're going to build on what we learned yesterday and what we practiced yesterday. So how do we, if anybody remembers, how do we distinguish a fact from an opinion? Amber, do you know?
A fact can be proven. You can look it up somewhere.
Right, exactly. A fact can be proven. Bonnie, do you remember how we determine what an opinion is?
An opinion is like how someone feels, their beliefs about something.
Awesome job, exactly. And remember we talked about those clue words like best or feel or think, and those hint us into an opinion. Great job. So today what we're going to do is a quilt project. And can anybody explain a quilt to me? Has anybody had any experience with a quilt?
My grandma makes them.
Your grandma
and
makes
you cover up with them.
Oh, great. So use them as a blanket. Keep you warm.
Little pieces put together to make
Wonderful. Little pieces put together to make a big, huge blanket. You're exactly right. Did you know sometimes quilts can actually have hidden meanings behind them? They can tell stories. They can show maps. And a lot of times they'll have patterns. So that's great that you guys know what a quilt is. We are going to look at, I have a couple stories on here. And one of them is titled Clara, Sweet Clara and the Freedom Quilt. And you guys are going to look through these pictures, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about this story. This is about a young girl, and this was back in the time of slavery, and she actually was a slave, and she was taken to a plantation, and she learned to sew. And what she did was she was put in the kitchen, and as she was listening to the conversation, she heard a lot about the Underground Railroad and different escape routes and things like that. So what she has to do is she began to sew her quilt and told a story of how to escape and drew a map. So what you have here is in between each quilt, there's a background, and that's where the map is kind of built into, and then in between the map squares are the actual decorations and patterns. So the next story I'm going to tell you and show you guys about is actually called Sam Johnson and the Blue Ribbon Quilt. And there I have that story pulled up, and you guys can look at those pictures. This is about a man, and back in the time that this story was written, females only quilted. They had quilting clubs and no men were allowed. And Sam Johnson really wants to be part of this quilting club. So he decides to make his own, and the men make a quilting club and the women make a quilting club. And they come together and they go to take their quilts and they trip and they fall in the mud. So they cut them apart and they piece them back together to make one big quilt of men and women. So they use a lot of patterns, and this one doesn't necessarily have a meaning behind it or a map, but they just show all the different patterns that they used. So our project today is going to be, I'll show you an example that I've made. We're going to make our own quilt using the Carousel of Dreams and our Facts and Opinion quilt pages. So up on my smartboard, what I'm showing you is this first one. I'm going to give you both a piece of blue paper, and you're just going to draw clouds. Now I've drawn fluffy clouds that are kind of round, but you can draw like stratus clouds that are real flat, and you could also draw a big, huge cloud. It's up to you. This is your cloud. And this is going to go in between what you draw on your actual quilt square. And what I've done on my quilt square is I've taken my fact that I chose from my graphic organizer, and my fact is the earliest known carousel in the U.S. appeared in Salem, Massachusetts in 1799. So what I did was I wanted to draw that fact. I drew, this is the state of Massachusetts, and then I put a star by Salem, and I wrote 1799, and then I put a carousel right in the middle. So that's what you guys are going to be doing. You're going to look at your graphic organizer and choose a fact or an opinion that you want to draw. So I'm going to give you each a blue square, and these are for your clouds, and then you can choose a color of construction paper that you would like to draw on, and the fact and opinion you like. while you guys are doing this, I'm going to read the story. I'm going to reread it in case anything sparks your imagination when we're listening to some of the details that they tell about carousels. And when I'm done, that's going to signal that time is up and we're going to share our squares, okay? Yes, Amber.
So you want us to make sure we draw the clouds, and then we draw whatever our fact of opinion is. We draw that while we're listening.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you'll have two separate ones.
Perfect.
All right. So here we go, a carousel of dreams. The carousel at Riverbank State Park in New York City is probably the most fantastic carousel in the country. It doesn't hold the usual herd of painted ponies. Instead, giant spiders pull a chariot, and a plaid zebra prances beside a two-headed octopus. These creatures were invented by kids. Milo Motala is 32 and is the artist who turned the kids' drawings into carousel critters. Motala believed kids should be a part of his carousel project, so he held drawing classes in Riverbank State Park. The kids created more than 1,000 drawings of creatures. It was tough to choose only 32 of them for the carousel. They were all my favorites, Motala declared. When 9-year-old Grover Austin heads to the carousel, he hops on the green lion. He thinks it's the best because he created it. The artist's signature is carved on the floor beneath each animal. The original drawing hangs above it. The children's carousel at Riverbank State Park is one of only 200 major carousels that remain today. Amusement parks and fairs now have faster rides. People today seem to prefer rides that are scarier or more exciting than the gentle carousels. But during the early 1900s, carousels were very popular. About 6,000 of them existed in the United States. At one time, carousels were considered rides for adults, not kids. Most carousels were created by craftspeople who came to the U.S. from other countries. They had a lot of pride in their designs of fancy horses and chariots. Chariots are the carousel seats that are like benches or little carriages. Most of these old-style carousels are gone. Some were destroyed by fires and others disasters. Many were simply not taken care of. Some originals, however, are still standing and most likely are still making people happy. One of them is in San Diego, California. Another one is in Memphis, Tennessee. The carousel that twirls in Seaport Village, San Diego was built in 1895. The 41 hand-carved horses have natural horsehair tails. The 13 other animals include a giraffe, a dragon, a teddy bear, an elephant, a camel, a dog, and a lion. They were all made by hand, too. This is one of the 2 best carousels in the entire nation, says Brad Perron. He's the owner of a company that fixes old carousels so they are like new again. They don't make them this way anymore, says Perron. He's talking about animals carved by hand from wood. Newer carousels animals are usually made out of material that is mostly plastic. Some people think the old carousels were better than the new ones. Riders of the Grand Carousel in Memphis, Tennessee can choose to ride one of the 48 wooden horses or 2 hand-carved chariots. Built in 1909, the carousel spun its magic in Chicago, Illinois for about 10 years. Now it is a famous attraction in Tennessee's Liberty Land amusement park. This carousel is one of a kind. It is so important that it is listed in the National Register of Historic Places. These and other historic carousels are powered by a motor in the center of the ride. The motor is covered up by panels with pretty drawings and carvings on them. Older carousels even have mirrors and special music that blares from nearby speakers. Blinking bright lights call riders to come take a spin. Did you know the earliest carousel in the U.S. appeared in Salem, Massachusetts in 1799? Some historic carousel horses were made with brass rings so that people could try to grab on for a free ride. Usually, the fanciest and most decorated horses on a carousel are the ones facing the outside. Many original carousel horses built in the early 1900s had real horsehair. And what's the difference between a carousel and a merry-go-round? Traditionally, carousels had only horses, but merry-go-rounds included other animals. Original wooden carousel horses today cost between $200,000 and $80,000. Wow. So I'm going to give you guys just a little bit longer to finish up. I'm loving the illustrations. You guys are very talented. So do we like this story? Is this something that we learned from? awesome? Did we know about carousels before that in depth, or what was something that we thought was our favorite thing we learned in the story?
Probably the most in depth I've heard about carousels in a while.
Yeah. Have you guys ever ridden carousels before?
Oh
Yeah. I know that they were very popular. When I was growing up too, we rode one. We had one in our zoo and we rode it every weekend almost, and it had a lot of the horses and the older type designs. And then my mom and grandma would always ride on the benches that they had there, the chariots. Wonderful. Did you guys have a hard time finding your facts and opinions in your groups, or was this something you felt pretty confident in?
No, I think it helped because you told us about the words to pick out, like best and those words that could tell you that really it was like what I thought or what the
Right.
person thought of the story. So
That's good. That's very good.
And then I noticed the facts were kind of at the end. You said it.
Yes, that's a great point, Bonnie. It definitely, they kind of put the opinions at the beginning and then the facts were more at the end. And we had that big section on the did you know, so that was great. Okay, I think what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and share. And let's see. Amber, do you want to share first?
no, Bonnie wants to share first.
Does Bonnie want to share
I'll go.
first? Okay, Bonnie can share with us first.
Just finished. I drew my clouds on this.
Awesome. I like those.
And then my fact that I chose from my chart was that Milo Matola's signature was carved on the floor beneath each of his carousel animals. And so I tried my best to draw a frog and
That is awesome.
put his signature underneath it.
That is wonderful. That's a great drawing. I love it.
I drew my clouds also.
Okay.
My clouds are different than hers, it looks like. And I couldn't draw. I chose it the green lion, like he's the best carousel creature, and I couldn't draw a lion, so I just wrote roar out here. But I have my green, and it's by the state park, and you can tell because it's the best, and that's kind of what I thought. So.
Oh, I love that. So, Bonnie, you integrated your fact by what did you do when you integrated your fact into your drawing?
Well, I tried to actually put it on there so you could see it in the picture. Then I wrote it in cursive in the word to try to make it.
Great. And then, Amber, you said will you tell Bonnie and share with us what you did to kind of distinguish how you put your opinion?
Well, it was opinion because I said the green light is the best
Mhm.
carousel ride, and I underlined that so you could kind of know that that's kind of a keyword that would help you find its opinion. And I feel like this is awesome, and those are my thoughts. So
Awesome. I love it. It is awesome. Great job. So what we're going to do is we'll just put these together and we'll kind of combine them on the board. And when everybody finishes from class, then we are going to put these all together and put them in the hall. And they're going to kind of explain our story of our carousel using facts and opinions. So thank you guys.
Yeah, it was fun.